right, fantastic. So I will do my best if I notice anything going on in the chat to come up to the computer and check it. And we'll go from there. And I just mentioned, so those of you kind of watching this later on record, we're going to do chair yoga today. And so you want to make sure you have access to a chair that perhaps doesn't have arms. That would be most beneficial, although you can do it on anything. So you just want to make sure that you're really making sure this is accessible for you, and not trying to mimic everything that I do. I think it's important that you really listen to your body. We talked about in weeks prior about ahimsa, which means non-harming, and those are part of the yamas, which are the 8 limbs of yoga. And the next yama that I wanted to talk about today is it's truthfulness. It's called satya. And truthfulness or truth is also a principle in mindfulness. Because if we can't be authentic and true to ourselves, right? How can we be authentic and truthful with others? And so living and abiding by that. And I think that is particularly hard in caregiving because either we want to overly people please, right? And say we're just fine, like kind of fake it from the neck up. I'm fine, and mask. Or sometimes we struggle with boundaries, being able to say no, or being able to ask for help, or being able to speak our needs. And so I think that aspect of mindfulness and yoga is a really beautiful pairing. And so as you're in class today, we want to keep the highest allegiance to ourselves over anything else. And if we can move that forward into, our daily practice, that we're not compromising our physical, mental, and emotional needs just to please or to meet others' needs, that there is a healthy balance there. And I think that's the secret sauce. Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to move a little bit away from my computer. I've got lots of chairs going on here. And so if you will find your chair and allow yourself to come on sort of the front edge, if that makes sense for you, if it doesn't feel precarious, so that you've got a little bit more mobility room in the legs and the upper torso. I've got both of my feet flat on the floor and my heels underneath my knees. This isn't how we normally stand up. When we stand, we typically have, and maybe you'll want to pay attention later when you get up and down from chairs, but typically what we do is we move a foot back so that we can stand, and we have a bit more of a base to stand on. If I were to ask you to stand from the 90-degree angle, it would be like doing a squat. So remember that functional movement is feet back and knees over toes. And I think a lot of times when we do fitness and training and yoga, we think that we have to have this perfect alignment. But remember that that movement should be functional and it should be for you. So as we practice today, adjust your feet in different places and notice what feels right and appropriate for you. So go ahead and let your hands relax on your lap so that your elbows hang from the shoulders loosely. So they're not too far forward and they're not too far back. But there's that sweet spot where you can feel sort of the energy cascading off the shoulder itself. And then if it's comfortable for you to close your eyes, consider that. If not, you can take a low gaze somewhere and just simply noticing. So maybe you're hearing sounds around you. Let that come to you. Maybe you're noticing the temperature of your room, whether it's cool or warm, and how that lands on your skin. What is the temperature of the skin? I'm noticing my feet are a little chilly. Maybe when we start moving, I'll feel a little bit warmer there. And then you might notice also, what is the temperature of the breath right at the edge of the nose? What is the quality of our breathing? And as the breath moves in and out through the nose, right, it warms the breath when it comes in and it feels cool. And as it goes out, you can feel the warmth of the breath as you release your expiration of the breath. And so the pattern of breathing actually gives you information on what the nervous system is doing. If you're feeling a really shallow breath or a breath just in the upper portion of the chest, you know that you're not moving the diaphragm as efficiently as possible, which also means that we're not moving into more of a parasympathetic state. When we use more of the diaphragm, it helps pump blood to the organs, to the systems of our body, circulation, which offers more efficiency in digestion, and it allows us, right, to move into a calmer state. So see if you can really begin to move from just sort of an upper chest breathing to more of belly and diaphragm. So as we breathe in, belly expands, the diaphragm moves down and pushes the belly out. As we breathe out, the diaphragm floats up, kind of like a jellyfish would in the water, how it goes down and up. Do a few more rounds of breath like that, and maybe you picture that jellyfish, maybe you picture an umbrella moving inside out and right side up. Whatever helps you sort of visualize that movement, that pumping, which allows for, again, more efficiency in the body. And then as you feel ready, take one hand on the heart and one hand on the belly. Imagine these two spaces interconnected, either invisibly with a string, or maybe you can feel the warmth of the hands. But know that they're connected internally with your visceral organs. That there's this beautiful connection between our breath, right, as the lungs inflate, the diaphragm moves, and our heart rate. Scientifically, it's called heart rate variability. When we can slow our breath, our heart rate can actually slow down. And our capacity to be able to slow or regulate the heart rate quickly is called that heart rate variability. Maybe just take a moment of just awe or wonder, because the magnificence that is your body is truly amazing. Good. Yeah. Breathing in and breathing out here. And then very gently bring your hands together at your heart center, the base of the thumbs toward the heart, making a commitment, right, to practice with this sense of truthfulness, which is in thoughts and your words, and then in your actions. And that is a part of mindfulness, that we have these three parts of ourselves aligned with what feels authentic to us. And so that might mean, oh, I don't stretch so far, or I do a little more today. So noticing what your capacity is and really being authentic to what makes sense for your body. We'll take a silent or an audible Om together. So breathing in fully here, breathe in and breathe all the way out. And breathing in, and we'll Om on our exhale. Breathing in. And lowering your hands and gently opening your eyes. We'll begin with some very simple shoulder rolls in 4 parts. So inhale, lifting the shoulders up to the ears. It's almost like you're trying to make your shoulders your earrings. Then you'll bring your shoulder blades together, keeping your shoulders up, like you're closing an elevator door in the back. The chest comes forward, the armpits are free. Keep them together and glide the shoulder blades down. Now you've got almost a back bend happening. And then relax your shoulders so that they slide back into the sockets. Again, inhale, shoulders up. Keep breathing in, shoulder blades together. Keep the shoulder blades together. Exhale, bring the chest forward, shoulder blades together, and then relax, exhale more. So it's inhale, shoulder blades together. Exhale, shoulder blades down, and exhale, relax. And again, inhale, exhale, and exhale. And maybe you've never thought about these being 3 parts, but what really helps you floss or get into spaces that you might not get into if you were just simply sort of rotely rolling the shoulder blades. Let's do another set. Breathe in, shoulders up. Breathe in, shoulder blades together. Keep them together, glide down, exhale, and soften. One more time, inhale up and together, inhale, exhale, glide down and relax. Now just roll, but see if you can find all 4 parts. For me, the hardest part is to remember that I don't want to stay in this propped back bend, but I want to relax at the very end. And the relaxation, keep going, the relaxation is a natural forward movement of the head of the arm bone. You actually have a slight 30-degree tilt forward in the head of the arm bone. Everybody does, right? And so we often think, oh, we need to push it back. And while that's a good isometric exercise, it's not a natural fit for the range of motion of our actual shoulder, at least when we're standing in anatomical position or sitting. Okay, now we're just going to alternate one and then the other. So think about swimming, but here, let your rib cage begin to move. When you lift that shoulder, think of this as being a lateral movement, so that almost if I were to extend my arm, I could feel that. So I just want to lift the shoulder as high as I can, together and then down, high as I can, together and down. So keep going and notice the pattern of breath. Is my breath assisting me here, or is it creating restrictions? Am I holding the breath? And then consider pausing any part of the way. So, ooh, right here feels really nice for me. I can feel that nice stretch right through the scalenes in the front of my chest. And I also noticed that I held my breath a little bit there. So I want to make sure that I complete the breath, even if I hold a particular shape. Now begin to add your elbows. So it's like we're kind of considering a backstroke here. But the idea is that we're getting some space, some lift, and the rotation in the side body so the ribs can slide around. We want to feel like the ribs, which they have these intercostal muscles, and they're very malleable. That's why when you breathe, the rib cage can actually move apart. There is that capacity of the front ribs to spread. And the back, they're much more fused, which makes it more difficult to feel that separation between the ribs. But it's designed that way because it wants to be this cage to the heart and lungs, but it also wants to be malleable so you can move and dance and right and have that sense of freedom. The next time, take your right or your left arm all the way up and behind you and reach it as far back as you can. Now, press down with the same side foot. I'm going to push. So if my left arm is back, I'm going to push with my left foot. That's going to create some stability so that I can imagine rotating my ribs further. Then I'm going to stretch the other arm out and reach them apart. Imagine that you've got some wingspan that's really moving. The skin from the armpit stretches all the way to the pinky. On your next exhale, pushing with the same side foot, I'm going to lift up like I'm going to touch the ceiling and grab something and then come back over. Now let your arms dangle here. So you might notice or feel like, whew, one arm feels like 10 feet long and the other one feels a little bit shorter, or maybe one arm feels warmer or more alive, or one side feels more alive. Just notice. On your next breath, we'll take the other side. So I'm going to circle and I'll press down same side foot. As I push that down, it's going to give me more leverage to rotate the opposite side of my ribs into the other side of the armpit. Maybe this arm floats out and I can feel wingspan. It's so interesting. This side is so much harder for me to rotate. I have more limitation in this shoulder than the other side. So I can just feel it where the bony stop is in the shoulder, and I can feel where the stop is in my ribs. And that's so normal. Your body is naturally asymmetrical. Take another full breath and see if you can spread the armpit into the fingers. And then circle. And as you circle, that arm comes up to the ceiling like you're going to grab something. And then let it come all the way down. Relax your arms by your side. Whew. So this arm now hopefully is feeling just as long and lanky as the other arm, or maybe even longer. Here, we'll inhale, spread the arms out to the side. Good. And then all the way up, imagine you've got energy shooting out through your fingers. Push down slightly with your feet. Open wide the elbows to cactus arms. And then draw the tips of the shoulder blades and back together as you bring the elbows slightly behind your chest. Now here, look down into your ribs and slide the ribs down a little. Then begin to look the head up and feel that back bend. It's like you're trying to get a handle on your chest and pull it up. The more you push into your feet, and some of you may want to take the feet closer, as I push in, I can actually feel more lift and back bend. Now here, we're going to close the arms together so the elbows and the hands touch. And we're just going to take a little bit of elevator up and down. My goal is to keep the hands and the elbows together. I'm going to slide down, elbows stay together to the chest. And then I'm going to come up as far as it'll let me, keeping my elbows together. It should feel like work. And then slide back down. Good. Now I'm actively pushing my hands together, actively pushing my elbows together. And so now actually I'm really feeling this work. Can feel the shoulder blades in my back spread apart and wing out. And I'm really focused on how far up I can go while I'm still keeping my elbows together. And then one more time, glide back down. Now here we're going to take the elbows apart and keep the palms together. And then push the hands in one direction. And then press the fingers in that same direction. So now I'm getting a wrist stretch. Be sure to notice how you need to make accommodations for that wrist, because you might feel pain or tightness, and so you might need to do less. So just noticing. And then switch to the other side. I notice that I'm keeping my arms, my forearms parallel to the floor. And then lightly push into the fingertips so there's a little bit of movement to the side. And I'm really feeling that stretch through the wrist and just noticing that. Bring it back through the center and let the elbows go down and the fingers apart. So now you're making a lotus mudra, which is one of my favorite mudras. From here, we're going to roll the wrist. The secret to this exercise is to keep the wrist attached. So I'm going to go forward. Thumbs are right next to each other. And as I keep rolling, now the back of my hands are together. I'm going to bring it toward me. I have to round my shoulders a little bit and then come back up. So I'm just going to keep the wrist attached as I roll and come back up. Some of you might hear a snap, crackle, pop. I definitely have. So it usually happens a couple of times and then my wrists just settle. The only time you want to be worried about a pop is if it's a sharp shooting pain. That would be an indication of something. But typical pops, they're friction pops or fixation pops. So friction pops means maybe your hip pops every single time, and that's bone on bone. Or a fixation pop might be maybe you stand up and stretch and your back pops just once, and that would be sort of getting some new movement in the spine. All right, and then shake that out. And almost imagine you've got water on the fingers and you're going to flick that water off. And keep going for as long as it feels comfortable. If you would like to feel this in your shoulders, you would lift your arms and flick. You're withholding your arms up and you're going to feel tension in the shoulders. So you get to decide, flick down or up. If you are working on hand strength, let's say you have a yoga practice where you want to do more things on your hand, I would work with flicking of the fingers. That would strengthen it. Also, let's say you have issues with the thumbs or repetitive stress injury in your fingers or your wrist, then doing this particular exercise would be really great for you. I would suggest a couple of minutes, 3 times a day, and that would be great to strengthen the wrist and the fingers. All right, shake that out and let it go. Good, nice. And so from here, we'll go ahead and circle the arms back up again. So come all the way up. This is going to be our vinyasa for today, which just means breath with movement. Cactus arms. Push with your feet slightly. Lift the chest. Shoulder blades draw together in the back. And now I'm going to slide my hands forward to my knees, round my back like a cat, which means I'm going to tuck my pelvis under and get a stretch for the low back. So this would be a variation of a child's pose. And I'm going to hook my hands over the tops of my kneecaps and really lean back. Here, you might even want to wiggle a little or side to side so that you can really get into that lower lumbar, which we haven't done quite yet this morning. So really feeling that stretch. Slide the hands back to mid thighs and relax the shoulders down. Let's do that again. Inhale, stretch the arms up. Exhale, open out to cactus arms. Inhale, lift again, a little bit more back bend. Exhale, hands slide over the tops of the knees. Pelvis curls toward the nose. Soften the back of the neck and jaw. Then slide the hands back toward the thighs, inhaling, and exhale, relax. Good, excellent. We're going to take, I'm going to cue left, even though this is my right leg, so that I'm mirroring you. I'm going to push down with my right foot and lift my left off the floor. And I'm going to hold here for a second. You might notice or might decide, ooh, that's too high, or maybe I want to keep my toe on the ground. And you can do that. Or you can lift it up. I've got my foot dorsiflex, so my toe is pointed forward, and I can feel my quad fire up underneath my hand. My spine is upright. If you find you're leaning back, you've lifted the leg too high. You can lower it. Right now, you might start to feel some fire in the leg, and that's okay. We're going to take some small circles. Imagine you're drawing a circle on your video screen with your knee. Now, you could also have it on the floor and go up and down from the floor. So, or you can hold it there the whole time. Now, change this. I'm going to internally rotate, bring to my chest, externally rotate, and then come back down. Internally rotate, chest, externally rotate, and come back down. A couple more times. Internal, external, and down. Internal, external, and down. And if you're not on the edge of your seat, this will be really difficult. So you want to scoot close. Then the next time that you come through the center, pause here, bring your hand to your shin bone, and then we'll just pump the knee in and then bring it forward. One of my favorite things about this is when I bring my knee forward, I get a pull or a traction in my shoulders. Can you feel that? So as you bring it in, exhale, inhale, let it go forward. Exhale in, inhale forward. A couple more times, in and out and in. I still have my foot dorsiflex, so I can feel the muscle in my shin. This time you're going to hold it knee to chest, navigate the spine a little bit. So if you're really leaning back, see if you can sit up a little taller or you're on your sits bones. And then you're going to let go. Maybe your leg drops all the way down. That's okay. Maybe it stays up here. Doesn't matter. Take another 2 sips of breath, and we're going to stretch that leg forward. I'm aiming for the height of my other leg, but you might decide to go lower, and that's perfect. You might decide to put the heel on the floor, also fine. Now, your leg might be shaking. That's okay too. So as you push that heel forward, we're going to move from our hips. So take your left hand to that hip. And you're going to externally rotate and internally rotate. If you need to be on the floor or hovering lower, that's great. Externally rotate, internally. What do you feel and what do you notice in the hip socket when you go out and in? Now, for those of you that maybe have had hip replacement or you've got some hypersensitivity, then maybe you just imagine the external rotation. Or maybe it's a very minute movement. Do you see I've reduced my range of motion here? So really just listening, external, internal, external, and internal. I promise we're almost done. If you're holding that leg up, you're probably feeling the fire. Maybe an inch higher, maybe not. Now we're going to rest it on the floor. So my toe is still dorsiflexing. I'm bringing my toes to my shin. And then I'll take the same side arm and slide toward my foot. And then I'm going to slide back up. Instead of letting your chin come forward, keep the head neutral. So when I slide down, I'm essentially just looking at my toes and slide back up. I love this particular exercise because I get a couple of things. I want to be pressing down with my supporting foot for stability. So I really push down with the heel of that foot. I'm sliding my hand back and forth on my leg. So I'm creating a sensory tactile sensation with the hand and the leg. So you might even start to feel tingly in the hand or a new sensation that you can be curious about. And then I'm also getting a lateral stretch. So when this arm reaches long, I'm getting a side body stretch. I might even reach past my toes if I want to increase the sensation. Remember, you're using your supporting foot like a brake on a car. So I would press down. Then the next time that you reach toward that foot, we'll pause there and tuck the chin just gently in toward the chest. So I'm just going to shake my head no or nod my head yes. My stability comes from my bent knee leg that is pressing down. Take one more breath here. And then slide the hand all the way back up. You got it. We're going to pick up that same leg and move it out to the side. So now I have, again, stability with this bent leg, and I'm just going to slide. This is going to give me a lateral stretch on the other side and then come back up. I might not want to take it that far. I don't have to. So you get to decide. But if you have it more forward, you're going to need to draw this shoulder blade back on the opposite side and then come back up. Just take a couple more. Sliding, noticing, and then coming back up. Maybe your range of motion is smaller than mine. That's okay. See if you can use the lift of the belly. We call this Uddiyana Bandha. So I'm inhaling, and then I'm going to lift that belly up and under to come back up. I'm also going to push through my feet. So I use my breath and I use my extremities and the breath to come back up. Perfect. I'm going to go ahead and lift this leg right where it is. So gather everything you have. Imagine everything coming together. So lift, then I'm going to bend the knee and put the foot back down. Fantastic. Before we do the other side, walk the feet together, and I'm going to externally rotate and then back together. So I'm thinking in yin, they call this cobbler's pose. In yoga, hatha yoga, it's Baddha Konasana, which is simply butterfly or opening wide at the pelvis and then bringing back in. So we'll take two more here. And as you're doing this, what are you noticing in the glutes? It might be hard depending on what you're sitting on. When my legs go wide, my sits bones come together. When they come back up, my sits bones spread apart. So it's important information for two reasons. My sits bones coming together can strengthen my hamstrings and my glutes. Coming back together can give me ease in my lower back. So this can inform you in the things that you do during the day. Let's say you want to strengthen hamstrings or pay attention to your gait or how you walk. Notice how much of the power comes from your glutes, which it does, and your quads. Also, if you're feeling tight in the lower back or some pain there, we're going to hold the knees forward and take a forward bend. Slide your hands along the outer edges. So notice with my feet parallel and hinging forward, now I'm getting a stretch in my lumbar spine, so all the way across. And my hip socket, my femur bone, which is my thigh bone, in my hip socket is centrated, meaning I'm not internally or externally rotating. And that gives me probably the most freedom in terms of a stretch for the lower back. Relax your head, neck, and jaw. Maybe just rest your chest on your thighs if that's accessible to you. If it's not, you know that you could be forearms on thighs, and you get to decide what feels best for you. One more breath here. Now push through your feet. So I'm going to press through my feet so my upper body feels really light. Inhale, stretch your arms all the way up. Maybe smile. I love what Iyengar says about when we have our armpits up, it's impossible to be depressed. So you can walk around with your armpits showing. It definitely helps with humor. And then open the arms wide as if you were a cactus arms or goalpost arms. Draw your shoulder blades together, lift the heart in the chest. Exhale, hold or fold the hands forward across the tops of the kneecaps, round the back like a cat. And then inhale, come back to sitting. Okay, press down with the opposite foot. So this time your left foot, I push down, and I'm going to lift your right foot, and I'm going to lift it up here. So here you can be low, you can be medium, you can be high, you get to choose. The key is if I have to lean back to do this, I've lifted the leg way too high. So I want to make sure I only lift it to the place where I can keep my spine accessible and erect. Here, we're going to start to rotate the kneecap. So I'm going to imagine that this is the handle of the wooden spoon. My hip socket is the curved part of the spoon, and I'm trying to kind of scoop it out. So I want to internally rotate, externally rotate, and come back down. Good. Internal, external, and back down. In and out. And again, this can be small. I can keep my toe on the floor if that feels like too much on the hip flexors. You have this amazing muscle. It attaches just in the inside, a couple inches below your groin. It threads underneath the pelvis itself, and it attaches at T12. It's called your hip flexor muscle, is the lay term for it. The next time that this comes center, I'm sure you're happy, and release here. That can be really strong, can it? And then you're going to pump in and then release. Now, again, really let this be a shoulder release so that it pulls down on the arms and you get that traction. I really enjoy assisted traction, which is what that is, because it helps create some space in the shoulder joint itself. And it can help you feel almost as far in as to the spine and the back between the shoulder blades. So see what you can notice in your body. I think I mentioned last week or the week before, one of the goals of yoga is to create sensitivity in our bodies and therefore sensitivity to life. And we want to see how much of the body we can internally connect so that we don't have disconnected parts. Right? We talked about masking earlier, and it's so normal for us to disconnect parts of ourselves, which we would call compartmentalization, to get through caregiving, to get through lifey stuff. And sometimes it can be really healthy, but when we're talking about disconnecting from our own bodies, that's where we can get into trouble. And we really want to start to pay attention to the parts of ourselves that has an effect on the other parts. So I'm going to release the leg and I'm going to reach that leg out. Now, you might decide you're way down here or heel on the floor. That's perfect. Keep pushing with the supporting or bent foot leg, and you can have that wherever you want. Externally rotate and internally rotate. So external, your hips are going to be like, Melissa, what did you do to me tomorrow? Yeah. Externally rotate and internally rotate. I find this works for me when I push down with my supporting leg. If I didn't, I would collapse. But by pushing with that supporting leg, I get more stability from the ground up. I get this sense of yieldedness, meaning I go down to go up with the spine. Okay, and then you're gonna reach that foot forward. Maybe you lift a little more, maybe you don't, and then put the foot down. Okay. Rest your other hand just on the thigh, and we're going to slide forward and back. So I'm going to slide as far as it feels comfortable, and then I'm going to come all the way back up. I'm using the supporting leg to act as a counterweight and a way to create more sensation. So if I want more sensation laterally, I'm going to reach the arm a little further forward, and that's going to go all the way into my shoulder. So you get to decide at what point you stop on the leg. And how can you utilize the breath here? So if I take a pause somewhere, can I still have access to my breathing in a way that feels really supportive to me? I was just thinking how many words I'm using this morning. Normally I work on economy of words, but I've been with my son, so I don't think I've talked very much. We've been doing a lot of things in his apartment, so I have lots of words to use. So sorry, not sorry. You're going to take one more time down. Good. And then relax your head down, soften the jaw, keep pressing with the supporting or left leg. Take another breath here. To come up, push with that leg, get light on the upper body. Lift this leg just for fun. Lift, 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 lift. Bend the knee and place the foot down. Okay. We're going to take this foot and slide it out to the side. And then we're going to just take that side bend on this side. Good. And so as I do this particular posture or shape in my body, you can play with this shoulder. Maybe I lift it more and I get a little bit more stretch through the side body. Because it's a non-weight bearing shoulder or arm, you get to do lots of different things with it. And I think it's really useful to remember that you're going for sensation and knowing where your edge is. You're the expert on you. I'm not. And paying attention to that gives you agency and power, right? So let's say you're caregiving or you're helping someone out, knowing that you need to pause and go to the restroom, know that you need to pause and drink water, know that you need to pause and stretch to feel better is empowering. Now, the next time that you come up, good, you're going to simply lift that leg and put the leg back in. Good, fantastic. Here, we're going to turn to the angle. So I'm going to be on the edge of the corner of my chair. Now, this is a little trickier if you're on a couch, for example. So just modify how it makes sense for you. I'm going to widen my legs here. So my heels are still underneath my knees. I'm going to slide into my left side. This is your left, my right. And I'm rest my forearm here. And then inhale, open up. Oh, I've got some sunlight on my face. It feels good. They had some snow on the mountain here in Salt Lake recently. And then we had snow in Santa Fe too, which is where I'm based. And it's crazy how quick winter is here. So this is a variation of side angle. If I wanted to go into a traditional version, I would stretch the front leg out and reach out through my toes. So I'm feeling this push down to lift up. And again, almost like I'm trying to find something on the ceiling. I like extending that leg because then I feel a little bit more on this extended side. You have the option to move the arm up and over by your ear, or you can simply keep it where it is. If you move it up and over by the ear, look down at your supporting or bent leg foot. Push with that heel a little bit more to get a little more lift through the front rib cage. And then on your next breath, we're going to circle that up and over. Now, if you have this leg extended, go ahead and bend it. We're going to turn so that we're facing this front foot. Now, if you notice, my legs are staggered here. This can be your warrior one. I'm going to show you a few other variations. So I can be here, or I can scoot back until my whole thigh is on the chair, and then I can take this back more to a lunge. I can also come back further, extending the leg, and I'm going to lean slightly forward so I'm not in the full back bend here. I could also bend the back knee. So you have lots of options. I can be here and smaller. I can dangle. I've got my sits bone off the chair, and I have one sits bone completely on the chair. I can also Slide back so that I have my whole thigh underneath the chair and move this leg back. I'm in a variation of a lunge, or I can fully extend that leg. What would you need to do that? Well, you would have to have flexible ankles. You would also have to have more flexibility in your hamstring and flexibility in your supporting leg hamstring. So if that's not there for you, find the position that is. We'll circle the outside arm, the arm that is away from the back of the chair, and circle it up and around. So use your breath as you do this. I'm also pushing pretty firmly into my supporting leg, and I'm anchored with the back ball of my foot. You could actually turn that foot out and it would open the hips, but I've got the hips level and square. So there's so many different variations of this. I'm going to do one more here. I'm even pushing down slightly with your left arm. Good. Then the next time I'm going to reach forward as if I'm going to reach and grab something. So I could be here, but I'm working from the back body. Take one more breath, and then I'm going to relax that down and bring this foot in. We're going to practice standing and swiveling. This is the only standing we're going to do today. So watch here for a moment. I've got most of my thigh on the chair, and I have this leg free. Notice that it's just about in line with the back rung of the chair. I'm going to start to lean forward until I can stand, and then I'm going to swivel to the other side. We're going to practice that a couple of times. So if you're wanting to get out of a chair and coming forward doesn't feel right, another way to get out of a chair is to swivel and stand. So I'm going to swivel and stand. Practice just a few more times and see how this feels for you. Swiveling and sitting, swiveling and sitting. So face forward. We're going to swivel to one side and stand up. So I'm going to take one foot out, my other foot back, and stand. And come back down. One of the things that I work with a lot when I work individually is how do I stand without pushing myself up? I see this a lot, people with their hands on the table or hands on the chair. You want to have enough leg strength to be able to stand without using your hands. See, look, Ma, no hands. So if I'm facing forward, I can swivel and stand. Do you see how I lean to make that happen? And then I'm going to come down and I'm going to swivel and stand. So find yourself on the opposite side, and maybe that's homework. Maybe you play around with that and see how it feels later. So I'm going to take one foot forward and one foot here, and I could be slightly forward, but this sits bone is off the chair. Or I can slide further back until I have my whole thigh on the chair, and I can start to bring my outside leg back for more of a lunge. Or I can come into a more extended version of a warrior one, which is going to be more of a back bend. So if you're feeling some stuff in the lumbar spine, bend your back knee. We'll swivel that arm up and around. Swivel is the key word today, isn't it? So my question for you, when we think about satya or truth, what is true for you today? So let's start with our mind. If we believed all of our thoughts, we would probably be in trouble, right? Think about your worry thoughts, your anxiety thoughts, your depressive thoughts. We want to make sure that we measure our thoughts against the truth, right? And let's think about physically what's true for you today. Maybe you need to do a reduced range of motion. Maybe that meets your needs for your shoulders. And last, what would be a truthful action for you? And for me, a truthful action would be, kindness kindness toward others, but also healthy boundaries if I'm not feeling comfortable or safe. And then we're going to pause here for a second. So let that arm sort of dangle and notice. Maybe you extend the leg, maybe you don't. Just notice where you are. Then we'll slide that leg back in so that we can take that swivel, and you're going to take that stand and come up. Good job. All right, so I'm going to move toward the direction of legs over the couch. You can use your chair, but I'm just going to switch to using my couch here. And I've got 2 pillows that I've just pulled off the bed. Actually, I might just use the chair. I'll do that. So I'm going to angle the chair just so you can see it, but I'm going to place one pillow flat on the ground, and I'm going to use the other one for my head. So it'll come out here. The way to get into this pose, and I'm going to sit down on the side here so that when I lie down, my back will be on the pillow. So I want to kind of hold it in place, and then I'm going to swivel down and swing my legs over. So I've got long legs, so I need to scoot the chair out and long. I've got this meeting my lumbar spine. It's not under my buttock, but it's right there at my lumbar spine. Oh, this feels so good. And lay back. I'm going to use my other pillow. You can be using blankets. Oh, under my head. So if you can see here, my arm bone should feel as if it were opening out through the side. If I have my arms too close, do you see how my arm bone shoots forward? So when I take my arms wider, oh, I can relax the shoulder down. And we're not going to completely relax just yet. Here, push down. I'll give you guys just a moment to kind of settle in. And I'm noticing that my chin is pretty tilted up. So I'm going to tuck my head just a little and get the chin down just a little bit. Oh, this feels so good. So breathing in and breathing out, we'll give it just a couple moments for everyone to join us. Remember that you want to take exquisite care of your comfort. So if there's any other adjustments you want to make to feel maybe more at ease, or maybe you decide the support under your back is too much, so you could reduce that. Breathe in and breathe out. Next breath here, soften the backs of the eyes. So here, I'm going to take some pelvic tilts before we settle. So I'll push down with both my calves so that my pubic bone can move toward my rib cage, and I'm going to imagine my ribs going down, and then I'm going to relax. So now there's a natural arch. Push down with both of your calves, the center of your legs. Tuck your tailbone a little so the pubic bone aims toward the nose. Exhale, draw your ribs down, and then relax. So you're thinking cat pose with just the lower half of the pelvis. It's a push down, curl, and relax. A push down, curl, and relax. Do that a few more times. I would call this a somatic movement. Soma means living aware and feeling from the inside out. And when you take that press of the back of the calf and curl the tailbone, you are creating an elongated lumbar spine and then relaxing back to a natural arch. So do that just a couple more times. And when you feel ready, like the movement now feels like you don't have to think about it. You can see the purpose of it, where it's giving some relief to the lower back. And then you're feeling that openness of the upper chest. When you're ready, simply rest in stillness. And I'll just cue you through a very gentle body scan here. Breathing in through the nose, softening the face. Breathing in, softening the tops of the shoulders, through the armpits and down through the fingers. Breathing in, resting as if the body were sinking, succumbing, moving deeper into the earth. Breathing in, feeling the open support of the pelvis and the weight of the leg bones dripping down into the pelvis. Breathing in, feeling the weight of the legs across your support, the calves, and the softness of your toes. We'll be here another minute or so. The body is breathing. There's nothing you need to do and nowhere you need to go. Just notice. Now you can stay here if this feels really edifying for you. Otherwise, you can lift the knees toward the chest, roll to the side, and remove the pillow that's along the shoulder blades. And then from there, you can roll back, support the head, legs over the chair or the couch again. And as you settle into that shavasana, this particular variation really allows for that circulatory response. I don't know if you've ever had swelling in your legs or neuropathy, discomfort in the lower half of the body. This is one of those really beautiful quick fixers, which is going to increase energy and increase blood flow to the heart. And we'll be quiet here just for a few more moments. Breathing in, breathing out. Now, wherever you are, you may choose to turn your disconnect, turn the video off, and stay in the shavasana if you have more time. One of my favorite ways to practice rest is to do so with a timer, because then I'm able to completely relax and not worry about the time. So if you know that's something you would like to do, you could set your timer, lie back down, and continue to stay. If you're ready to move about your day, consider a little bit of a stretch here, moving of the head, the jaw, maybe a yawn. Yeah, and rolling to one side and coming up to an upright position when you're ready. All right. We'll close with saying there's just a lovely poem that I wanted to share with you all this morning. It's not a poem, it's a quote. If you're familiar with braiding sweetgrass, being here in this exquisite around mountains, I don't know where you are, but I am sure there is beauty wherever you are. And Robin Wall Kilmer um, has such an eloquent way of words. And she says, knowing that you love the earth changes you. It activates you to defend and protect and to celebrate. But when you feel that the earth loves you in return, that feeling transforms the relationship from a one-way street into a sacred bond. And so, right, that we can have awe and we can have wonder, but we also can know that, right, the earth does provide for us. And I love the idea of that relationship as a sacred bond. So, my challenge for you this week is to find some of that awe and that sacredness. And maybe it's just lifting your eyes and looking outside if you can't go outside. Maybe that's spending some time um, looking at beautiful photos of maybe prior, in a nostalgic way, prior trips of you being outside. I know sometimes our lives are so overwhelming, but we can take these little moments, and the brain does not know the difference. You will still get a hit of serotonin when you look at beauty. You don't have to always be in beauty if it's not accessible to you. So I'll encourage you, whether on your drive or wherever you are, to take an opportunity to look at beauty. So thank you all. I so appreciate you. Oh, great, Sarah. I'm so glad that you were able to do it in your office. If you want me to send you the recording, or if you haven't gotten prior recordings, I can do that. Just pop your email address in here in the chat box, and I will send it to you. I hope you all have just a beautiful week, and we've got one more week left. And if you love this, reply to Jasmine and let her know that you've enjoyed the series so that we can do it again. So thanks, y'all.
Thank you,
Take
Melissa.
care.
Namaste.
Oh, my namaste, my pleasure.
Have a good time.